And welcome to Odds Flight Deck podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football, presented by our good friends over at Royal Retros, where you don't need a time machine in order to get some sweet, sweet throwback merch. All you have to do is head over to royalretros.com, use the code FlightDeck at checkout, and you will save 10% off your entire order. I'm Tim Capper. You can find me over on X and Blue Sky over at Repact. That's REPPACT.
What the helly? This is Cliffy D. You can also find me on X and on Blue Sky over at Cliffy D.
You say, what the helly?
What the helly? That's the thing the kids are doing now. So, what the
Oh,
hell?
okay.
What the helly?
Oh,
What the helly
God.
berry? What the hell? LeBron James?
Okay.
Hey, I'm
So
cool.
you said
I'm with it. I like to think I am.
you're hip.
Yeah, I'm down with the lingo.
In between preseason games, it's special. No, I'm just kidding. Um, yeah. You use the best term, and we're using it as the name of the podcast. Is you put out a great thing, and the Owls last week for their preseason opener, they basically opened up the Cottage. It's basically what they did, and I thought that was great. It was perfect.
Yeah,
You know,
and most people during May long weekend, which technically wasn't last weekend, but close enough to that time frame anyways. That's when a lot of people
yeah.
will actually head up to the cottage and get her opened up and get it de-winterized and all that. So I just thought, well, that's more or less what we're doing right now. So, and it's funny because the home opener, which is typically held more in late June, is actually going to be held in early June. So we're actually, in a sense, opening up the cottage a lot sooner than what feels like normal, which is incredible to me.
Well, we were, considering the week that we had prior, which everybody knows, that we heard in the podcast last weekend on Flight Deck Live, we really weren't sure based off the weather if the ice was going to be out. And we weren't sure if we were going to be able to make it down the ice to the cottage. But luckily, a few warm days, but still, the game itself, it was still raining. I'm sorry. I'm just going to cut to the chase. Yeah, oh man, it's been a very interesting time at camp. I mean, props. So, I mean, I said it's the longest that I've ever, a few days that I attended at camp this year. I think it's your second longest. I'm not mistaken. I know we talked about this off air before, but overall, we're heading into the final game of the preseason end of camp this week. But overall, the experience I think has been great for everybody. I mean, and despite how the Alouettes did this past week versus Ottawa, there's still a lot of good things to see. I mean, as I said, it's a lot of these guys. We saw a lot of the great stuff at camp, but unfortunately, for the team which had the starters basically in for the first half, they really weren't able to do much. And it's not a matter of versus Ottawa because Ottawa's offense was anemic also. You know, so I mean, by the spoiler alert, Owls lost 23-7 in the preseason game, fewest amount of points scored in a preseason game since 2018. Um, versus that's the same Ottawa Red Blacks, but we went over quite a bit on Flight Deck Live, and you can see that over on in audio or in video, YouTube, and on our main location over at outsflightdeck.ca. Catch up there. We also second time in 2 years at the preseason game, we had somebody join us unexpectedly. So
yeah, that's the beauty of going live, ladies and gentlemen, is you just never know what's going to happen. And as we're doing our show and recapping what we saw, what we liked, what we didn't like, who happened to wander by but QB1 himself, Davis Alexander. And we don't ask these guys to do that. Like, I mean, they just show up of their own volition. So I mean, listen, if you want to come on and talk with us, if you're a player, you want to come on the live and chat with us, you're more than welcome to. Feel free. I mean, it's your show too, as far as I'm concerned. So, it was kind of nice to talk to Davis about his experience, what he saw out there, and how it was, and it was just a good little recap on his part too. And what I really liked with him was, I mean, he did not have the best day. I mean, again, bear in mind it's preseason. it's a vanilla offense. I mean, you're doing everything you can not to get hurt. So obviously a lot of that was reflected in not just his play, but I'd say the play of the entire starting offense and so on. But he even said, I'm going to be better than that. That wasn't what you like. Basically saying I'm better than what you saw today, and you'll see that. And I believe him 100%. There's no question in my mind that he's the starting quarterback of this team without question. And I know that first game against Ottawa on June 6th, he will be more than ready, and he is going to light things up. I have every confidence in the world that he will be 100 times better than what we saw last Saturday against the Red Blacks in preseason.
And he has obviously with the home opener, being versus Toronto, there's a lot of things he wants to write, because I think if everybody remembers to me it kind of seared in my brain, just seeing that one picture of him, one knee down, and just the distraught look after the Eastern final. And I'm sure everything will be fine, I said. But yeah, again, if you didn't watch Flight Deck live, make sure you head over and watch if you want to see Davis over the YouTube page. Again, but it is available also in audio version. But then you won't be able to see him; you'll be able to hear him. But anyways, I think everybody gets to understand what I'm saying. What would you take away from this? I'll say one good thing and one bad thing from the preseason game. Besides, I think it's the first time we've actually ever done a flight deck live in the rain. Besides the one in the car that we did in the early days.
That's right.
But yeah, give me one good thing and one bad thing that you can take away from the preseason game.
The defense was on point. I mean, let's be honest. Take away the Devontae Dedmon kick return touchdown or punt return touchdown. I forget which one it was, but take away that touchdown, and this defense pitched a shutout against the Ottawa Red Blacks, against their starting lineup as well. So there was definitely a lot to like defensively about this. As far as I'm concerned, the defense is more than ready to go. And again, you can't really compare what you saw offensively versus defensively in the same sense, because it's two different games that are being played. I mean, this defense, obviously their goal was to get out there and make an impact and try and get in Drew Brown's kitchen and make things happen. And by and large, I think they did a very good job of keeping Ottawa's offense in check and being able to showcase a lot of what they can do as well. So to me, that's the positive. That's one of the positives I'm going to take away from this. The negative is it really felt like after the first half, I mean, once the 2s and 3s got into play for both teams, that's when Ottawa decided to open things up, and it felt like Montreal just didn't really have an answer. So to me, it looks like, okay, well, if our starters go down, and this is what we have to work with. I mean, call it rust, call it, not being cohesive, which I have a hard time believing too, considering we saw these guys all working together in camp and they were looking really good. Is it just a simple matter of maybe the stage being a little too big for them at that moment? It's possible. I hope not, because otherwise then you definitely don't belong on this team. I just felt like offensively, this team just had a very hard time getting things going, and the points show it. I mean, 7 points, and it wasn't 7 points because of a touchdown. It was a rouge, a field goal, and a field goal. And essentially, all of the Alouettes points came off of the feet of their kickers. And you're not going to win very many games like that, whether it's preseason, regular season, or what have you. You're not going to win too many games just kicking the ball.
That's true. I mean, yeah, it could have been worse scoring. I mean, does anybody? I know I did. Anybody remember the '97 preseason game versus Toronto where the Owls got shut out 40-0? What did they do that year? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Preseason is preseason. For
and
me,
I know people like to talk about the fact going undefeated in preseason can sometimes lead to good things. Like, for example, in 2009 and 2023, the Alouettes went undefeated in the preseason and won the Grey Cup. So I think now with that in mind, your hope is that you do go undefeated in the preseason, but there have been plenty of times too where they either tied or lost in the preseason and won the Grey Cup. So I mean, the only thing you can really take away from preseason, and I've said this numerous times, it's not a meaningless game. It just doesn't count in the standings. It's all about talent evaluation and seeing what you have talent wise, and that's where you've got to adjust for the second game. And ultimately, that leads into cut down day as to who stays and who goes. So for me, getting upset or even elated over a preseason win or loss is kind of pointless because the goal isn't necessarily to win or lose the game. It's to see what kind of talent you have in your lineup and doing the most you can to extract that talent and find out who belongs on this team. So that's the only takeaway I truly have when it comes to preseason itself. So I mean, would going 2-0 have been cool? Sure, I guess, but 0-2, okay, if it happens, it happens. I mean, you really can't take too much away from the record of preseason. It's all about what you see on the field in both of those games.
It's kind of like the playoffs. You start off at 0, as soon as the 2 games for preseason are done, you're 0-0, just like a lot of the coaches do teach to their players. Sure, you went 12-6 in the regular season, but it doesn't mean anything heading into the playoffs because you
Yeah,
have to still win it at maximum 3 games for a championship. So,
that's it.
yeah, for me, positive. I'd probably say James Morgan. He really looked good in the short period of time that we got to see, and
Mhm.
I'm really curious to see what he's going to be doing this week, because it looks like he's going to get quite a few reps this week when the Owls travel to Ottawa. He just looked really good. This is a guy that's come in. He's been on the roster, I think, on and off for the last couple of years, and I think he really has put himself into a very unique position, Cliff, where he could be our number 3. It is very possible that he could be our number 3 depending on what happens and whatever the coaching staff decides.
Yeah.
Um, it's very interesting. It really is, and I just like, I know it's a guy that we need to get on the show here and talk to him about his career. I know we both talked to him in person and stuff like that over at certain events and stuff like that, but, uh, yeah, I know it was a short amount, but he has we've seen it over the years, the quarterbacks that are able to throw the ball really well, and James is one of them, and he's just gotten better, better and better, and he's gotten used to what Coach Moss is teaching in the playbook. So I was really impressed by that.
Yeah, and also too, I couldn't help but notice a couple times at the camp sessions that we were at, he was basically the last quarterback or one of the last quarterbacks off the field, still working with all different receivers, like not just like the quote unquote starters, but guys that are you know like camp bodies to see if there is something there and see if there's any sort of talent and just constantly working to get better. And you got to appreciate that, the fact that he's willing to still put in that extra time when he's not obligated to, but I think he's taken it upon himself to maximize his potential, to maximize the opportunity that he has to get out there and get some reps. And even if you're just throwing the ball around with your receivers and the other quarterbacks and whatnot, just doing everything you can to get better. I imagine his film study too, he must be going through that, voraciously. So, I mean, I give him a lot of credit. I give him a lot of credit for being able to learn as much as he can, soak up as much knowledge. And yeah, he's one of those guys that is definitely fighting to be not just a practice roster guy. Like he wants to be one of those quarterbacks that's going to be in the lineup on game day. So I hope for his sake he does. I hope he balls out against Ottawa on Friday, shows off what he can do, and make this coaching staff want him on this team, not just on practice roster, but want him to
Mm.
be part of the active roster as well. So it's I won't say it's his position to lose because of the current quarterback room we have right now, but the potential is definitely there for James Morgan, and I think he wants it bad enough. It's just a matter of being able to go out and execute.
Yeah, exactly, and I mean, for my negatives, you could look at a couple of things too, and I still think Again, I understand it's preseason. To me, my one negative really was the offense. For a team that seemed to be doing so well, and again, it in practice and in the inter squad, I get it's not the same as going up against somebody live, but to me, the offense was kind of a negative to me. As I said, I know it can get better. It
Mhm.
should get better. We'll see. It'll be very interesting. I know we'll talk about this in our last segment tonight, but it'll be very interesting this coming week versus Ottawa. But again, I think it's people need to remember it is preseason. As you said, it's all about eval and stuff like that.
Mhm.
We'll find out that the rosters come around. The cuts have to be made by 10 o'clock on Sunday. Excuse me,
Saturday.
Saturday, and then from there. So that really was it for me because, as I said, I had to trying to keep a level head when it comes to what we saw. Um, and I'm sure things will get better from there, as I said. But again, preseason. Um,
Yeah, it was
what?
anemic. There's no question about it. I mean, again, I'm pretty sure. Again, you're not going to reveal all your tricks. You're not going to bust out every play out of
No,
the playbook especially in a
no.
preseason game against an opponent. So, as I said, it's a vanilla offense. It's bland. It's whatever. But one could also make the argument too that if you can't master this quote unquote vanilla offense, then what are you even doing there? Like, and there were times too where you know I would even go so far as to say every quarterback at one point just looked off. Like just like wow, okay. Like I mean, for guys like Davis Alexander and McLeod Bethel Thompson, like established CFL veterans, they're obviously not going to give their full or do anything that's going to risk injury to themselves. But at the same time, you're playing in front of your hometown fans, and you want to give them something to get excited about. And I don't think they did a very good job of that. I mean, not it wasn't all terrible, but at the same time, I guess I think fans were really expecting a lot more, especially out of Davis, and I think that's why he kind of made a point to say during Flight Deck Live that was not that's not the quarterback you're going to get.
Hmm.
Far from it, and I believe him. As I said, I that was not his best effort, but I think also too we were kind of spoiled because previous preseason games. I mean, he played like his hair was on fire, but maybe it was because he was, you know, young, hungry lion, wanting to prove himself and wanting to, show that he belongs on this team and such. And now that he's achieved that, I'm not saying that he's gonna, put the brakes on all of a sudden, or just all of a sudden he can start dogging it. That's it's not that. So don't get it twisted by any stretch.
Right, 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 right.
It simply was just a matter of okay, getting out there, getting out on the field in front of the fans and seeing what you can do against an honest to goodness opponent. And again, it's not going to be full force. This, as I said, this game doesn't count in the standings. Davis
No.
is QB1, so he's not going to, go all out and try and kill himself to win a spot on this team. His spot is secure.
Yeah. Quick honorable mention actually would be the penalties. That was concerning.
Hmm.
I know it's learning the intricacies of the game, and I think it really wasn't the Alouettes too. I think you had a lot of games league wide where the penalties were just really out there. So,
Yeah.
what I think is funny too, by the way, is that if you and I were to talk about specifically about a bad thing that we didn't get to experience was which was a huge topic this week across the country and across the league, was the debacle with CFL Plus.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Wow.
and this is year two of CFL Plus,
Hmm.
and the eh, and it just wasn't the Owls game. It was games across the board, and it kind of harkens back to uh, the whole issues that the league was having when it came to stats and not stuff not showing up properly on the website, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But man, I'm curious to know what's going to happen because I'm curious for those who didn't know, because if you're watching the game on RDS, You don't know, you may not know what we're talking about. But anybody who wanted to watch the game, whether it be in the US, internationally, um,
or the rest of
or
Canada.
in Canada, the rest of Canada, if you didn't have RDS, is that not only the Owls game, but also some of the other games this week, the league website crashed,
Mm.
literally crashed, and it's kind of making shades back to the draft.
Mhm.
Same thing, where it just completely failed. Now, we don't know who the host is. I don't even know if is it Genius. Wouldn't it be funny if it was or not? Um, but
Not funny,
still,
haha.
yeah, I know. So it was a combination of starting late, no audio once it got back up, um, cutouts here and there, not being able to log in at all. Some people yes, some people no. So the league did flip the script, which I think is a huge plus. Is for the Calgary Elks game, they put it on YouTube.
Yes.
And any issues? No,
Not a one.
no. So it makes me wonder, does the league go this route with YouTube, put CFL Plus on YouTube to speak, so to speak,
Yeah.
but include geolocation blocking, which can be done.
It can, but at the same time, why would you want to? I mean, I think when it comes to getting as many eyeballs on the products as possible, and let's not forget, the great thing about CFL Plus and what we've been able to sort of use to sell it to people is, especially people who have family members on, for example, the Alouettes. The only way they're going to be able to watch their family member play in a game is to watch it on CFL Plus. They can't do that. They can't do that though if everything's crashing left, right, and center. Like if the website isn't reliable, and I hate to say, as you alluded to earlier, the CFL draft, they picked a bad day to have a bad day, and that failed, at the worst possible time.
Mhm.
One could say it's basically the same thing for CFL Plus, failing during all of the preseason games, almost all of the preseason games. At this point, you may as well just put everything on your YouTube channel. I mean, it's been shown it can be done. In fact, I'll even go as far as to say, like, you basically open Pandora's box by putting that Calgary Edmonton game on YouTube. Like, and I don't think you can unbreak that glass. I think now, if you want to make sure that people are watching your product and are
Mm.
able to see it, and let's face it, YouTube is available to anybody basically with an internet connection. So you can
Yep.
watch on, again, you can watch on your phone, you can watch it on your laptop. If you've got a smart TV, you can watch on, you can download a YouTube app and watch YouTube videos on your TV. To me, that's an absolute no-brainer. It would make all the sense in the world for the CFL to start putting those games on their YouTube page and just avoid this debacle altogether.
Oh, and they could still put the same rules in place
Mm-hmm.
as they do currently now with CFL Plus. Again, the geolocation blocking is a thing, and it can be done. If you're within Canada, you can't watch it. You can
Well,
still keep it. You can still keep it there as an archive. Once the game is over, then you open it up to everybody because everybody was able to see it for
you can,
48
but
hours, and then you private it. You know what I mean? It can work. And on top of that, I'm sorry to say, but I think this is the right thing because I don't know if they did it or not for the game for Edmonton. You did like for CFL Plus, you disable the comments,
mm,
which I know can be a fun show in itself for live events.
depending on the
But
game, but yeah, no, I see. My only concern with the geotagging or geolocking or anything that sort of privatizes it just a little bit. I get what you're saying, and especially too, like if TSN's broadcasting the game, then it creates a whole conflict right there. But I mean, for example, the Ottawa Montreal game, yes, it was broadcast on RDS, but I'm sure people in the rest of Canada that don't have RDS would have liked to have watched the game too. So why deny them that? Or why make them go through the rigmarole of get a VPN and pretend that you're in the United
They
States. So
wouldn't.
they
No,
can,
no, no. They wouldn't have to in this situation because that game was open to all of Canada, except for Quebec. So it really is just a matter of getting into the regular season is when everything would be put into place for if they did decide to go their YouTube route.
Hmm.
We'll see what happens this week because
Yeah,
obviously week 1 of preseason was one game. This week also will be multiple games at the same time.
yeah,
So we'll see what happens.
yeah.
I'm
And
curious to know if they will push it to YouTube because you can put multiple streams on YouTube at the same time and still follow the same rules.
yeah, and the Montreal Ottawa game will be broadcast on TSN and RDS. So
Right.
in theory, I guess everybody in Canada could watch the game on TV, whereas people in the States or abroad would have to go through the CFL Plus portal.
Now, I'll give another example. Obviously, as everybody knows, and we'll move on because I don't want to talk about this, to death. Um, there are other platforms that could accommodate a CFL Plus. You know what I mean? Because, and I'm just going to give one example because I think it's a good example to use, um, where um, Arena Football One uses Evergreen Now as their live broadcast streaming partner. It's done with through partnering with through Vimeo, and it's almost like the exact same thing. You have live games; they're there for an X period of time. You can watch them wherever you want, and I'm sure again you could do geo blocking if necessary, but it puts a single location where you can watch all the games. I understand. Yeah, I understand that CFL Plus is HTML based. I get it. You want to keep them on the league website, where because it is technically the league website. But I mean, if you have to go that route, why not go that route? Create an app for CFL Plus because as long as as long as you have, it works on Android and on Apple, it doesn't matter because then they would be able to set their own rules because like CFL Plus, Evergreen Now that is used again, like I said, there's no chat. It, you can get it on the you get notifications when it's live, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's an idea. I'm just curious to know what's going to happen this week. This week will be the test because if it fails again in week 2 of week 3 of the preseason, what's going to happen in week 1? I mean, maybe it had to do with the amount of people watching. I don't know. I mean, I
And
know there are still certain. I mean, the league does it right. The league doesn't have to worry about, getting copyright strikes on YouTube because they don't play. They don't play the songs.
yeah,
You know what I mean? They own the stuff. So,
no, it's their
anyways, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Um, what's funny is that this kind of leads into some of the an experience that we were uh, privileged to be a part of because as you know, as some of you may know, Cliffy and I, Alice Flightdeck podcast, are members of the Football Reporters of Canada. And I'll just say that the reason why we had to push the show this week is because of that opportunity that we were given last night with us two and the rest of the members of the Football Reporters of Canada. It seemed to be a first year thing. I would love it. So far, the reception of it has been absolutely amazing, and hopefully, it will happen in multiple years. A yearly thing. But when you get to sit down, and this is the important part here, off the record. So I think people don't understand where I'm going to go with this. A lot of this is that it was off the record, but we were able to sit down with new CFL commissioner Stuart Johnston. We were able to sit down with CFL stats guru Steve Daniel, uh, Lucas Barrett, the media director, and others. And just, I don't want to say shoot the breeze. It was really because everything was off the record, but we were able to talk about things and find out things that the league is looking to do this year and get an idea of what the league is looking forward to in 2025. And I know there is a lot to talk about what we heard, but again, off the record. But Cliff, from your experience, what would what for me, this is another reason why if you are a CFL podcast, Canada or wherever, particularly I would think it's particularly Canada because you're football reporters at Canada. There is more than enough reason to join and to have this opportunity given to you because it's a lot more than this. This is like an extra plus for the amount that's paid per year, besides the other stuff that happens during the year. But overall, what were your thoughts about this experience?
Any chance you have to talk with not just the commissioner of the Canadian Football League, but also a lot of the people that your average fan doesn't know, but these are the people that work behind the scenes in order to help make that CFL experience so much better for everybody, not just members of the media like ourselves, but also for all 9 teams, for the administration, for the fans, for everybody, anybody that's involved in the Canadian Football League. Like, these members of the league are working diligently to ensure that you're getting the best possible experience. And for them to get together with the Football Reporters of Canada and sort of go over some of the things that you can expect this year, and have a quick little powwow, if you will, with the new commish, actually, I think was definitely a treat. It was definitely good to hear from him. And he touched on a lot of subjects as well. Again, even with things being off the record, like, he sort of gave some insight as to what he's expecting, what he's looking forward to, as he's still learning on the job. Like, he's been involved in the media aspect of things for a long time. So I think this kind of appealed to him, to be able to sit and talk with people that a lot of them he has known for a long time too, like working in the media landscape, but to sort of share a little bit of insight from what he's been learning thus far, because he's only been on job now officially for a little over a month now. So he's still got a lot to learn, but you can tell that he's eager to learn it. He wants to learn it. He wants to hear from us, like us members of the media. And eventually it's going to come down to getting together with fans and hearing what they have to say. So if you see him at a CFL game, by all means, he wants you to go up to him, talk to him, share your thoughts, share your feelings on the product and what you're seeing and everything like that. Like, help him get as excited for the game as you are. And to me, I think that's an absolutely fantastic thing. And to have the opportunity to have that, as well as speaking with the people in the league, as they kind of touched on a few different topics, and just stuff to sort of help get reporters, anybody that's involved in the media aspect of things in the Canadian Football League, help them get that much more ready for the season to get underway. And it was definitely a great experience. I'm glad we had a chance to participate in it. And like you, I definitely hope this does become an annual thing.
And also, too, just based off the early conversations, and maybe we'll be able to score getting the commission on this. We have never had a commissioner on the show before, so it might be about time to have one of them on.
Could be. We'll see what happens. I mean, like I said, you had a chance to ask him a couple of questions as well, which is great. And it was what I really liked too is everybody that he spoke to. You could say, I know it's virtually, you can't really look someone in the eye, but I feel like he was definitely looking at you and hearing you and addressing you as such as well, which I thought that's the kind of touch that you need when it comes to being a commissioner of a sports league, is to be able to hear and relate to people and hear what they're trying to say and how they're trying to relate things. And as far as I'm concerned, he did a really, really exemplary job yesterday. So I'm definitely curious to hear more of what he has to say. And I'm definitely going to be paying attention to how he proceeds in this role over the coming weeks, months, and hopefully years for him anyways.
And also, too, if anybody hadn't seen it, and this is just for anybody across the league, because I haven't really seen it any other. I haven't seen any of the videos that may include it, but when the commissioner was here in Montreal for the preseason game, and he did an early pregame scrum, and what impressed me was the following: not only the length, the questions he answered, how he answered them, and lastly, what language he answered them in.
Mm.
And that, because if anybody's noticed as of late, the lead, whether it be, I think it's the League Communications X account, it's been more so bilingual, and I think they're finally embracing that Montreal may just be a single market, but this market, because it is a French, even though uh, it is a French market, it is very important. And for him to be able to even try to answer some of those questions in French was a good sign. And it's not slighting Ambrosi or anybody else, former Commissioner Ambrosi. It's just, I think, how maybe because he was with TSN and he was dealing with the guys over at RDS. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know.
Well, he stated as
But
such too. He had a
yeah,
relationship with people at RDS, so
yeah. So, I said it was great. It's on the Alouettes YouTube page. Go and take a watch. It's a good fit, about a 15 minutes, but it's worth the time. Worth the time to watch. Besides besides that, to talk about Steve Daniel, I was obviously geeking out because he is he is the stats guru. And the other thing too that I thought was very interesting is we got to speak of another presentation that was done by Darren Hackwood, who is the associate vice president of officiating. And it was cool to have him on because, and I know this occurred uh, a week plus ago when it was announced by the league. Something that Cliff and I have been holding off to talk about. But because the CFL did ratify a few rule changes for 2025, you know, Cliff made the suggestion. It said, "Well, why don't you just hold off and we can get some clarification on because there was a rule that I really didn't I wanted more clarification on. Instead of emailing Darren, I said, you know what? I'll wait." Cliff made the suggestion. We waited because we had this opportunity, and we got to ask about the question. We got to ask about and it wasn't me too, by the way. Who was that? Who didn't understand certain things? There were a lot of the reporters were asking specific questions about these new rules, and that's what I loved about it. In particular, I said some of the stuff that came about. And again, if you've known about these, I apologize, but they changed it. It was a grade 2 roughing the passer penalty. It is the grade 2 has been modified to be called when a blow was delivered to the crown of the helmet or the neck of the helmet of the passer, despite having a clear view to contact, and there are no mitigating circumstances. A blow was delivered to the knee or below of the passer, and then obviously just a blatantly late blow. Um, Automatic ejections. This one, this was an interesting topic last night. I'm curious to know your thoughts, Cliff. Automatic ejections, in that the list is now including the following: all low block penalties on kicking plays, and this is the one that really got the most talk, and I'm sure it has across the league already. Punching actions, open or closed hands to the head area. I want to know what your thought is about that because we understand football is football.
Mhm.
And I'm curious to know, based on the changes there, because we've seen it too. We've seen a guy come up, swat, and make contact, and it's called.
Mm.
This is also punches too, where usually we joke, and I think everybody jokes that it's always the second guy who gets the penalty. If it's noticeable, it's very possible that we're going to see a lot more calls played, plays called on this. And I'm curious to know by the end of the year if ejections are going to be a topic of conversation at the end of the year. What were your thoughts about this one particular rule change when it comes to ejections?
I find this kind of interesting because yeah, like hands in football, they go flying everywhere, right? When you're trying to make a tackle, you're trying to get it in somebody's grill, you're trying to do something. yeah, hands are just going to go astray sometimes. And what constitutes a punch? I mean, to me, like if you're making an actual punching motion, yes, whether it's an open hand or not, it's going to get called. That's basically what they said was anything that has the appearance of a punch or with intent is going to get called. I mean, there's been times. I mean, how many times have we seen someone inadvertently just a little boop on the on the helmet, and it's boom, roughing the passer is called, and we get upset because first of all, pay attention to your hands. First of all, the minute you get anywhere close to the quarterback, and you do something, you know, out of bounds, so to speak, or you're off kilter, they're going to call that. So I'm almost worried if God forbid someone tries to do that to like another player that's not a quarterback, is that going to be misinterpreted as a punch? I hope not. I know they said they're going to be using their best discretion when it comes to that. Like, but again, plays happen so fast. Sometimes the action is just flying fast and furious. Sometimes referees don't always see everything on first blush. So I got a feeling this is going to be one of those rules that will be enforced and maybe a little over enforced to start, as most rules tend to be. I mean, let's face it, the first 6 games of any CFL game are just, the laundry is going to be flying left, right, and center. That's just how it is. Now, with this, like, are things going to be misconstrued as punches? I sincerely hope not. I sincerely hope that the referees and linesmen and what have you, anyone that can call a penalty is going to take a look and say, is that an actual punch, like this, or even like that? Like sometimes something like this, like just I'm waving my hand like that. Maybe that can be construed as a punch, but not really. So it's it's going to be a learning curve for everybody, I think. But I sincerely hope that common sense prevails over everything, and that again, if someone throws a punch, by all means, you throw the flag, and it's a 25-yard penalty, and possibly even an ejection for
which is another 10, I think, if I remember correctly,
right
for an ejection. So
Yep.
if anybody remembers what it was like when it came to you being able to challenge offensive pass, or sorry, just like OPI or DPI. Remember how much they fished? This really isn't the case in this type of circumstance. Man, it's going to be wacky waving inflatable tube man all year. That's it. That's the rule. I'm going to call. That's what the rule is going to be called to me. It's once again wacky waving inflatable tube man is on the flag is on the field. Wacky waving inflatable tube man. From there, but I agree with you. I'm curious. I still am curious to see what it's going to be like when it comes to the numbers at the end of the year on this one, and if they'll modify it. But I don't know. Low hits on vulnerable receivers. The penalty has been created to deter low hits on receivers who are not in a position to adequately protect themselves. It'll be a 15-yard penalty, an automatic first down. Will be called when a blow is delivered at or below the knees of a receiver who is in the act of catching a pass while in a vulnerable position. Note, should the receiver jump, they will lose that low hit protection.
Yeah.
Ineligible receivers. I found this one very interesting. Once an eligible receiver touches the pass, all players on both teams become eligible to catch the pass. So, if you are if you've touched the ball, tip drill, and it is in the air, then you will. Anybody can go ahead and try to catch that pass.
Yeah. And who knows? We could even see that become part of the play calling as well. I mean, if something happens and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, if the receiver can't hold on to the ball properly, maybe he even as a lateral. I mean, or it does something where the ball doesn't, where it leaves his hands in some way, shape, or form, ends up in a lineman's hands, for example. We could be seeing more thick sixes this year as a result, and it'll be just like how they drew it up, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. This is the one that really was for me. The offside pass. I was like,
You
is
were
that
like a
like
dog with a bone with this bloody rule.
well, yeah, because I really didn't understand it, but so an
But you know
offside
what? You
pass
weren't the
is
only one, though. There's a lot of
yeah,
people because we asked quite a few different people through all walks of the CFL life, and even they struggled to truly comprehend. So we definitely had to get the answer for this one. So
so an
please,
offside pass is defined as the ball being directed in any manner other than being kicked towards the opponent's deadline. The team making the offside pass is not permitted to advance the ball or retain possession beyond the originating point of the pass. The following plays will no longer be considered offside passes. If a defending player prevents the ball from going out of bounds, knocks it down, or bats it back into the playing area in an offside direction, batting a loose ball in any direction following a fumble, a block kick, a wild snap, a lateral pass. There's a lateral pass, by the way,
mm,
or a kicked ball. So summarily is this. Cliff's lined up on one side. I'm lined up on the other. I am trying to. I am trying to do a. I guess we could say it's similar to. I guess we could say an onside kick. I do an onside kick. Uh, I'm running towards the ball. Cliff's running towards the ball. Cliff is trying to make sure that this ball does not go. That it's is he wants the ball for his team. So it doesn't really matter which way he bats the ball, whether he bats it ahead of him or behind him out of bounds. That will not be a penalty. Is that I think it's the best, probably the best description. It's a way to explain that new rule.
yeah. So we got the clarification. That's all we wanted. Now you, the listeners or viewers, now you know the rest of the story.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's really those are the things. There's other things of removals of restricted major penalties, but that's you know, there's not really much of a. I think the interesting one that really stand out to me, by the way, um, is the restriction when applying a maximum distance on all major penalties, misconducts, and rough play disqualifications will be removed. So, as an example, the Alouettes are currently sitting at the 15 at the 15 yeah, they're sitting at the 15-yard line, and a major penalty is called 15 yards. Usually, if they were sitting at the opponent's 15, it would be half the distance. In this case, it would go to the 1.
Mm-hmm.
So that could be major. Stripping it from being a half of the distance penalty to going to the 1 could be a game changer.
And I think this is where you're going to see the discipline that coaches preach to their players and seeing
Mhm.
how well it's going to be enforced. And let's face it, if you commit a dumb penalty and cost your team all that yardage, I even go so far as say once is too many. Twice, you may be looking for employment elsewhere from this team.
Exactly. Don't forget, we are on social media. You can find us almost anywhere, any of the podcast aggregates and stuff like that. But if you want to look for the entire history of the pod, head over to Alouettes, www.alouettesflightdeck.ca. You can find us on X and Blue Sky over at Alouettes FL Deck, Facebook over at Alouettes Flight Deck Pod, Instagram and YouTube over at Alouettes Flight Deck. Do not forget, not only can you get the audio version, but you can also do the full broadcast version of this podcast over at YouTube, including our companion post game show, Flight Deck Live, which has we're very proud to say we've done already a few shows this year, and we are really thankful for everybody that has decided to watch us post game or watch it on archive. We're really thankful for that, and they will continue. We do have one coming up. Flight Deck Live will be broadcasting after the Alouettes preseason game at Ottawa. So stay tuned for all of our socials for the time that we are going to go live. Also, if you're looking to rep some merch of the pod, head over to www.flightdeckgear.ca, uh, where you can get not only logo merch of the pod, you can get the 10th season championship shirt. Well, you can still get the
No,
We the One shirt.
you
That's
can.
still there.
Yeah.
The 10th season anniversary shirt, and our newest, if you know, you know, the LBM shirt, the Lil Big Mac shirt. Those are all available over there at the shop right now. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I think the code, unless it just expired, no, I think it's still available for a few more days. Using LBM10, I think will get you 10% off your entire order.
There you go.
So, and lastly, again, we want to thank our presenting sponsor, Royal Retros. If you go to royalretros.com and use the code Flightdeck at checkout, you will save 10% off your entire order.
Yeah. And again, if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. Give us a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you hit the notification bell so that when Flightdeck Live does go live, you'll be notified of it. When we upload this episode and future episodes, you'll be notified of that as well. So make sure you do that. And as always, folks, if you like the show, tell a friend, tell a coworker, tell everybody. If you don't like the show, tell us. Let us know what we're doing wrong, and we'll make it right.
Exactly. There is a game, another preseason game to be played. And the depth charts did come out. But I think before we talk about the preseason game, I know there is a little bit of rant. Cliffy rants come from time to time, as they do from Tim. And Cliff, we've been talking about this for a little bit since the game ended this past week at Percival Molson. And I'm curious to know what you had to say, because I know when people hear the word preseason, they think the beginning of football, but there's other stuff too. And so I know I wanted to be able to give you the soapbox here and tell everybody what it comes to how you're feeling about preseason in general.
Well, I have to say, I was actually inspired for this by one of our listeners, Ryan Snickars. He had actually put out a post or tweet or whatever you call it on X or Twitter, essentially saying that I hope this is the last year the Alouettes charge full price for preseason, because this is not it. I don't recall the exact way he phrased it, but essentially saying that to charge your season ticket holders full price to attend the game that we saw last Saturday is insulting, to say the least. Now, as we've talked about ad nauseum on this podcast, preseason is an evaluation, nothing more, nothing less. We accept that. But I kind of agree with Ryan in that asking your season ticket holders to pay full price to watch an exhibition contest is a tad ludicrous, especially when the team itself is offering buy one, get one free tickets to the preseason game, which some could argue diminishes the value of your season ticket in doing so. Also, if you are a season ticket member, you also had a free ticket to the game in your portal, so that you could invite a friend or family member or what have you to come to the game, which in theory is a good thing, but at the same time, it's not like you're going to necessarily sit next to them. All it does is just get them a ticket into the stadium, and they could be sitting across the field even, or somewhere else entirely, because like I appreciate the concept of the free ticket being offered to season ticket holders, but at the same time, the whole point is, if you're inviting someone to get them excited about Alouettes football, if you're not sitting with them, then what's the point? Like I just don't. To me, it's a great idea in theory, but the actual execution of said idea is flawed. And truthfully, I really think, and I've been saying this for years now, you should be charging full price for preseason. I would honestly say $20 any ticket, first come, first serve. If you want to sit in a certain section and try it out, that would be the time to do it. If you want to bring your friends, your family members, and get them excited about football, this would be the time to do it at $20 a pop, or $25 even, whatever. A simple enough price to get people in the door. Then you sell the concessions. Then you sell the merchandise. Then you sell the idea of, hey, you really enjoyed this atmosphere. You really enjoyed where you were sitting and all that. Well, guess what? That seat just happens to be available. How about we sign you up? And if it's not a full season ticket, then you get on the Flex program, or buy 2-3 games worth of tickets at that seat. Mm-hmm. Whatever it takes to help sell the idea of coming back to the game over and over again. I mean, selling a season ticket right there and then might be a little hopeful, a little too hopeful, but at least get people. You got them there, and they're excited about the game. You know, even the less than stellar effort the Alouettes put forth last Saturday, notwithstanding, the idea of getting them excited about the idea of going to see the Alouettes play at Percival Molson Stadium would be well worth. Again, they would take a bath on it, no doubt, but in a lot of ways, they're kind of taking a bath on it already. Because let's be honest, they said that there was a little over 13,000 people at the game this past Saturday. That's what they announced the attendance as. Truthfully, I think that those are your season tickets, your season ticket holders right there, as far as because again, they already paid for that seat as part of their season ticket package. So using that number is skewed as far as I'm concerned. And truthfully, I think the best way to help sell this team, help sell the atmosphere at Percival Molson Stadium, help sell everything about the Alouettes would be to basically make it open to everybody. And not everybody's going to attend the preseason game, even if you are a season ticket holder. In fact, a lot of people tend to give away those tickets because, you know what, I don't want to see it. If I'm not going to see the Stars, I'm not going to see the game doesn't count, quote unquote. I'm not interested. But you're paying for the ticket anyways. And even if you're giving it away, and people, again, if people don't want it, or the people that you know that would like to go to the game already have tickets, then it's kind of waste anyways. I mean, I would just personally like to see all the teams in the Canadian Football League kind of operate under that standard. Because even talking with I saw a comment from one of our friends out in Saskatchewan. He wanted to take friends and family to the Riders preseason game, but apparently tickets were $80 for where, I guess maybe it was where he was sitting, but like $80 for a preseason game is absolutely ludicrous. And again, trying to sell, again, I mean, no doubt in my mind, he was trying to sell the idea of, hey, come to the game, you'll love it, it'll be a lot of fun, everything like that. But $80 a pop for a preseason game, that's a hard no. And again, I don't fault the team necessarily for trying to make as much money as possible. I mean, that is the goal here. They are running a business. They are here to try to make money, or at least not lose as much money. But I mean, Saskatchewan's definitely not losing any money no matter what. But the idea of $80 to watch an exhibition game, for lack of a better term, is preposterous, quite frankly. And I think back to in 2015 when the Alouettes and the Red Blacks played their preseason game at Université de Laval. They were selling like full price tickets for that, and to me, I thought that was ridiculous. Like, again, especially you want all the people from Quebec City to come and pack the stadium and maybe get them excited and maybe get them thinking maybe one day of having a CFL team of their own. But they're not going to come pay $80 to $100 to watch, again, an exhibition game, a game that is for talent evaluation, a game that doesn't count in the standings. Like, to ask people to pay full pop for something like that, it's ludicrous. There's just no other way to describe it. I mean, I really think you have so much potential with a preseason game to get people excited about football, to get them excited about the regular season. The diehards are going to be there, win, lose, or draw. You don't have to sell to them. I'm talking about selling to the casual fans, so the fans that were maybe kind of thinking about it, but they weren't sure. But, you know, same idea. They're not going to pay, $100 plus to watch what's essentially a game that doesn't really count. But you know what? I think for $20, you'd be able to get your whole family in for that same $100. You get your whole family in there watching the game. I mean, you're gonna have to buy your popcorn. You're gonna have to buy your souvenirs. You're gonna have to buy all that stuff and pay regular price for that. That's fine. That's where you make your money. That's where you, at least you get the chance to sell to people. And again, you have ticket reps going through and like, hey, this is your first game. Great. How you liking it? It wouldn't be fun to come and see this every week or every other week. Guess what? I got a great plan that can help you do that. Oh, okay. You can only come to 2-3 games a year? No problem. We got these flex packages. They're absolutely great. They're transferable. No problem. Perfect opportunity to get people excited, to get them thinking about, you know what? Yeah, I like it here. This is fun. I want these seats. Or if you don't have these seats because they belong to a season ticket holder, okay, what do you have in this section? What do you have that's close to this? Okay, we can sell you this. We can offer you this opportunity, and so on. To me, that's the best way to get people excited about football. That's the best way to help sell this product. As much as we like to say it sells itself, and again, if you're a diehard football fan, yes, it does. But if you're one of those casual fans that's kind of like, oh, do I want to go see a game? Do I really want to be a part of this? To me, that's how you do it. That would be the best way to do it, and I think it would, in the grand scheme of things, it would pay off in the long run because you're getting people excited about this game. You're getting them excited, and eventually they do become season ticket holders. They do establish themselves, and they start going to games year after year after year. It has to start somewhere, right? And as far as I'm concerned, preseason is a great opportunity to do so, but you got to do it properly. And charging full price, not only to casual fans, but essentially to your season ticket holders, is, as far as I'm concerned, not the way to do it. Just simply not the way to get people excited about it. And Ryan, I appreciate what you have to say. I'm with you 100%. I mean, the idea of paying full price to see the effort that we saw this past Saturday is insulting. And Tim, you've talked about in the past about how those later season games feel like glorified preseason games, and you hate the idea that you have to pay for those. At least those are games that actually count in the standings. Those are at least something. Yeah. Whereas the game that we just saw last Saturday is strictly for talent evaluation. So there's nothing redeeming about it other than the fact that, okay, I get to go out to the stadium and watch live football, which to me is always fun, but again, everybody's a little bit different. So if I'm the Alouettes or if I'm the Canadian Football League in general, especially with all 9 teams, I think that's got to be the way to go. That's something that really needs to be thought about. And in fact, maybe I should have mentioned that to Commissioner Johnston last night, or if we get him on the show, maybe I can talk to him about that. And I'm sure a lot of the team owners and the governors would be like, well, I don't want to lose money. I'm like, well, you kind of are losing money no matter what. It's just, if you think of it as, yes, you're losing money, but at the same time, you're building a foundation towards something better, and to eventually having a full stadium, game after game, year after year, season after season. I'm just saying, look at the big picture of it. And I think that the best way to do that would be to open it up to everybody at a small price, get them in the door, and get them excited. To me, that's how you sell the preseasons. That's how you sell this game. That's how you sell this league.
I like where you're going. My thought would be is this, and I'll cap your rant with this, is that most season when you renew your season tickets, usually if you have that, most teams have an early bird special, and they're depending on where the seats are, they can be anywhere between I think 10 and 40% off at that time. Maybe um, maybe it is time that the league, maybe that the teams, depending on the section, reduce the prices of those tickets in that section between the same amount, from anywhere between 10 to 40%, if that's the case for your team, especially for that preseason game. And it would also go for for single game tickets, the exact same thing. It's less revenue, yes. I don't like I like your idea, but I don't like the idea of it being one set price, because you're a season ticket holder in the VIP section and you pay that money for a reason. I think if you can give everybody there that one game break, anywhere between, I said, whatever the percentage is for if you're due for season tickets, or just make it across the board at 30%. 30% for the preseason, 30% off. You know what I mean? I think that actually is the way to go. Because yes.
Or again, I would even say, like, if you are a season ticket holder and you actually want to stay in your seat for the preseason game, they actually want to go to the preseason, you'd have right of first refusal to, if you want to stay and watch the game, great, you watch the game and you're only charged like that lesser amount.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to go to the preseason game because for whatever reason you're just not interested in it, okay, then it's open for that one game. But as I said, use it as a chance to sell. Like, if people come to the game, they like where they're sitting. I was like, oh, sorry, this seat is not taken because someone else already has it for the season, but we can offer you something in this section, which is pretty good too, or in this row, which is the same section, but just a slightly different view, but you're still getting this more or less the same experience that you just got today. So
yeah, I'm curious to know. I'm curious to know if teams would actually do this, because I agree with you. I mean, there's nothing that we can do about those late season glorified preseason games where there's nothing on the line for some teams. Even though this past year the Mother Nature game did mean quite a bit, and the Alouettes came to play versus Winnipeg. So yeah, it may be something that needs to be done, because I agree with you. I mean, paying full price for preseason games is absolutely stupid. I understand the part of the ticket package, but it's ridiculous. The prices are dumb.
I would almost rather you know what, if you built the cost of the preseason game into your regular season seats, for example, or use it towards a playoff game. And I know, again, there's no guarantee of making the playoffs, so I understand why they don't necessarily include that in there as well. But at the same time, there has to be a way to sort of offset the cost so that you're not paying full price for a game that doesn't count in the standings. I think that's where a lot of the beef is. And again, when you hear like other teams or fans in other cities trying to help sell this game, but you're being encountered with $80 preseason tickets. Like, I mean, that blows my mind. I mean, I guess I shouldn't be surprised with anything Saskatchewan does at times, but I mean, this is just that's egregious as far as I'm concerned.
That's a little bit ridiculous. There's a game this week, the last preseason game of the preseason. The Alouettes are heading to Ottawa to play the Red Blacks on Friday. Every team in the CFL is playing on Friday because, as we mentioned earlier, the cut-down day is 10 p.m. on the 31st. Thoughts on this? Because the depth chart came out. And you had a very interesting comment, but again, we're going to go back to what we said at the very beginning. It's preseason, we get it, but it's very interesting to see. It's like it was tough to look at this and to determine how many of them are regular starters. And in that case, I think we came up with less than a dozen, less than half a dozen, if I'm not mistaken.
A handful, basically.
If you don't count the quarterbacks, actually, it's funny. If you two quarterbacks we knew that are on the roster, so maybe just over half a dozen, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't count quarterbacks because, like in real life, quarterbacks don't count towards certain stats or certain rules or whatnot. But anyways, yes, all this to say that literally just a handful of known players or players that were veteran, I guess, for the lack of a better term. Be. But and again, the whole point of this is talent evaluation. I mean, based on who will not be playing is a good indication of who will be on this team in 2025. I think now it's just a matter of truly seeing what the depth is and who's going to be worthy enough for a roster spot, or whether it's active roster, more likely practice squad. It's going to be who's going to want it the most and who's going to go and showcase what they're able to do. And again, if you're a member of Alouettes Nation making the trip to TV Place to watch this game, please know that again, if you're a diehard and you're expecting to see, your superstars in action, you're going to be disappointed. But again, if you want a glimpse of what the future holds for this Alouettes organization, this is the game for you, because you are going to see a lot of the rookies, a lot of the players that were drafted in this year's draft. First and second year players that are doing what they can to show that they belong on this team. And as far as I'm concerned, everybody that's going to be playing in this game on Friday could very well be cut. Not all at once, of course, but these are those bubble players that I often talk about. That's the ones that have a chance to make this team, whether it's practice or active roster, but they got to play the game of their life on Friday against Ottawa to show, if only to show that they belong, that they should be in the conversation. And it's going to be interesting too, because the coaches are going to be there, coaching as though this were an actual regular season game. They're coming in prepared. They're going to want to do what they can. They would definitely like to come away with a win if possible, but they too are going to be watching to see, certain players and seeing what they can do. And are they worthy enough? Should they be backing up our starters? Or they're good, but we can't quite get them into the roster just yet. We want to park them on the practice roster and give them a chance to develop. So I'm curious to see who will be in those two categories. And then ultimately, as you said, as of 10 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, we're going to find out who are the ones that are being told you were good, but not good enough, unfortunately.
It's always tough, and there is still there is still a lot of positions to be decided, and despite Caleb Evans starting, I mean, as we're talking about James Morgan before, that could be that right there could easily be a very interesting uh, thing to watch when it comes to this game. So it. It again, dude. It'll be interesting nonetheless, as I said. So,
Yeah.
one real quick note before we let everybody go uh, is that the Owls signed another kicker. I I don't know why. And by the way, this is not a punter. This is the kicker. This is
Mhm.
Philippe Boyer. He was a national kicker out of UDM. I. It's funny with the amount of kickers. We've been so used to the years where the Alouettes don't have any. Nobody's there to, and it was just A. But now it seemed. I just don't understand. He'll be playing. He'll be playing in Ottawa. But okay. I don't understand why we signed another kicker. I guess we'd have to talk to Danny about that. Um, but
Again,
but you know what?
it's all
It,
about
it
the evaluation. That's
There you
that's
go.
truly what it is. Is
There you
you
go.
know,
Yeah.
does this
So
guy have what it takes to be a kicker in the Canadian Football League? This is his opportunity to show. And again, would the Alouettes consider once again keeping another kicker on the practice roster like they did last year when they had David Cote and Jose Maltos was biding his time until an opportunity came available for him? Well, now look what's happened. Maltos is the guy now, and
mhm.
right now it doesn't seem like there's any true competition for him other than Philippe Boyer. Maybe this is his
Yeah.
opportunity to show that, hey, at least keep me on the practice roster. I can do some good things if you give me the opportunity. And we're obviously hoping for the best for Jose. We want him to stay healthy because he was doing some outstanding stuff. But I mean, injuries do happen, and the last thing you want to do is be scrambling looking for a kicker as the season
That's true.
progresses. So
That's
to me,
true. And by the way, it's going to be a big day too, obviously, for our number one pick, Tiger Shanks. He gets a start. He'll get the start. He only played, I think, maybe it was the second half last week. This will be a big test for him, despite who he's playing up against, to have
yeah,
our number one guy, number one pick this year, start this game. So it should be very interesting.
yeah. I'm also looking at Arthur Hamlin, who is basically starting at safety, basically taking over Marc Antoine Dequoi's spot in the
Hmm.
roster. An Ottawa boy as well, so a little bit of a homecoming for him, so to speak. So I'm curious to see what he's going to be able to do as he, is last year he was backing up Antoine Dequoy, but he's going to want to showcase himself as best he can. So I expect him to have
Hmm.
a really solid game tomorrow as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Should be fun. So either way, the game will be broadcast on TSN and on RDS, and I guess CFL Plus also, for those of you who are not in Canada. Um, and the game
Here's
does
hoping it
start at.
works.
Yeah, no kidding. Game starts at 7. And you will be win, lose, or draw. You will be seeing us tomorrow night with Flightdeck Live to talk about the game and all the ins and outs from the game itself. And it'll be this week it'll be weather free. So that's one thing we won't have to worry about. So
Yeah. So once
um,
again, folks, on social media, make sure you hit that notification button or bell or what have you. Make sure that you know when we go live because we will tell you when we go live with Flight Deck Live. So, but you got to be subscribed. You got to be following. You got to make sure you got the notifications turned on. So if you haven't already, do it. Do it now. Thank you.
yeah. Yeah, there you go. Cliff, do you hear that? I kind of hear the Canadian loons. I hear them calling. I think they're calling us. We have to go outside since we've opened up this cottage. We need to go outside and have ourselves a nice beverage. So we will see you guys next week. We'll also see you on Flight Deck Live, and we really appreciate you joining us. We really do. So if everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. Run final approach.